especially if you're black, Latin, Asian, Native, or a woman. So the range, though, whether it's a little more, whether it's just the right amount, or it's less, this range that they pay you is just enough for you to survive. You can survive a little better, you can have a few more extra things, or you can be living from paycheck to paycheck, or you could be on welfare. But no matter what happens, you never get out of that range. But they get out of that range because they own everything that you produce. They pay you what is necessary to keep you alive, and they keep everything that you create and sell it and keep the money. That's where the profits comes from. You work, we get paid to stay alive, to have a family maybe, to have some kids, so that those kids can grow up and go into their factories and into their stores and into their mines and into their fields, because they need the next generation of workers. So they do try to give you enough money so that you can raise some new workers for them. See? But all your labor is not paid for. You're only paid what it takes to keep you alive. But you give them all your labor. 40 hours a week, 30 hours a week, 50 hours a week, whatever it is. With a product of what you create, whether you drive a bus and drive passengers back and forth, whether you're in a hospital giving in injections, or changing bedpans and bed sheets, or whether you're on the assembly line, or in a mine, or in a field. Everything that you do is creating wealth and things of value, use that, remember that word, value, and they keep that value. And you get just enough to stay alive. That's where profit is, that's what surplus value is, the value over and above what it takes to keep you alive, they keep it. Now you will never hear that in the capitalist press when they talk about what is capitalism. You'll hear all about the free market. You'll hear all about buying and selling. You'll hear all about supply and demand. You'll hear all about everything except exploitation, class exploitation. So I just wanted to bring it up so that you know what I mean when I say capitalism. It's a system. Just like ancient slavery was a system, capitalism is a system of exploitation. A system of exploitation is this. There's an exploited or oppressed class and an exploiting and an oppressing class. If it was the slave-owning class of the South or the slave-owning class of the Roman Empire or the feudal lords of the Middle Ages who had serfs, ruling classes took all the things that were made, the labor of the workers and the toilers underneath them, and kept it for themselves. They took all the surplus and kept it. Only in the olden days, they took it by just going in and taking it piece by piece. A serf gave 50% of the corn, 50% of the wheat, 50% of what they produced. They had to bring it to the Lord and give it to him and put it in his shack, in his storage room. And that Lord might have had 100 places all around Europe, and every one, the serfs had to bring the food to the Lord. That's how they kept the surplus. Under slavery, the slaves had nothing. Everything they gave, everything they created, belonged to the slave owner, including them. But under capitalism, it's done a different way. You go to work, you create, and they keep all the surplus, everything for themselves. That's capitalism. And so when somebody says to you capitalism, I implore you to think of that as the fundamental definition. Now, why bring all this up? Because I want to talk about the crisis of capitalism, and I want to make sure that at least whether you agree with me or disagree, you understand what I'm saying. Now, right now, there's a huge crisis, as everybody knows. And all kinds of pundits and well-meaning people and are writing about it, talking about it, and so on. And all kinds of things are being said. They say, well, it's the greatest crisis since the Great Depression. And that's true. Other people say, oh, it's a structural crisis. It used to be a cyclical crisis, but now we can see it's a structural crisis because things aren't getting better. Blah, 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 and so on. But saying that doesn't help, because we have to know, we the workers have to know, what is this crisis and where is it going? And what are we going to do about it? That's the whole point of understanding it, is to figure out what we're going to do about it.
In capitalism, who sets the wages for the workers?
Well, unless the workers, I want to, we can have a long discussion afterwards, but I'll just answer this one thing, is that if there's the only thing, under capitalism, the workers work at will. The will of the capitalist. You are working, if you don't have a union, you work what they call, you work at will. Yeah, they can fire you, they can hire you, they can give you a lunch hour, they can take your lunch hour. They can give you a break, they can take your break. They can give you health care, they can take your health care. They can give you a vacation or they can take it. That's what's called working at will. The only thing, if you have no union, that's a barrier to them, is any state labor laws or federal labor laws that constricts them. Those labor laws were won by the workers in struggle. The 40-hour week, time and a half, etc., etc. See, but other than that, you work at will, unless you have a union, and a strong union that will say this is which supersedes the will of the capitalist and forces the capitalist to comply with certain conditions that are in a contract. State laws are very hard to enforce. The bureaucracy doesn't enforce them. They don't investigate except for a long time. So workers are at a greater disadvantage, having to just rely on state and labor laws. But anyway, that's just a sort of a digression here, but a useful one. But here's the thing that I want to bring up. According to the definition that I raised of capitalism, you can extrapolate from that, and it's from your own experience, that under capitalism, as it is now, there's two permanent tendencies that flow from the profit motive. If, as I said before, profit is the difference between what we get paid and what the capitalists can get money for when they sell, you could see it right there. It's like a little germ, and it grows together. Selling more brings more profit, and lowering wages brings more profit. These same two tendencies, lowering wages and selling more, are the two urges of the capitalist to get more and more profit. And by the way, it's a law of the capitalist system that those who get most profit vanquish the others, capitalists, vanquish their rivals. So the capitalists are in a struggle against each other for survival. So they're in a struggle for profit. They can't stop. They cannot stop. If one stops, he gets eaten by the other. So they cannot stop. They can't say, okay, I made $100 million this week. I think I'll take a rest. And I'll go on the Riviera. I'll forget about my business for a couple of years. I'll take a... No, it doesn't work like that.